Hello everyone. Today we're going to be presenting Chapter 7, Defining Competitiveness by Jasmine Cruz, Natalie Gonzalez, Brittany Lucero, Marcela Narvaez, and Alma Tricia Pelayo.
Compensation strategy, external competitiveness, comparisons outside the organization, comparisons with other employers that hire people with the same skills. Major strategic decisions is whether to mirror what competitors are paying or to design a pay package that may differ and better fits the business strategy, which means setting a pay level that is above, below, or equal to that of competitors, which is the base plus bonus plus value of stock holdings divided by the number of employees. Determining the pay mix relative to those of competitors makes up the total compensation. There are two main objectives, which is the control cost with the increased revenues and the attract and retain employees. The higher the pay level, the higher the labor costs.
Control cost and increase revenue. Pay level decisions have a significant impact on expenses. Other things being equal, the higher the pay, the higher the labor cost. In this equation, we can see that labor cost equals pay level times number of employees. All units are not fixed, yet it would be a good idea to keep pay level as a fixed number, even though that must fluctuate depending on budget. The number of employees normally has a fixed number, no more or no less, but an outside external force can occur, where a high turnover rate will happen for a company, meaning the number of employees has lowered. This will cause the labor cost to lower as well. If the number of employees lowers, the pay level should stay the same. If the budget for the company gets higher, the pay level can get higher. If it lowers, the pay level will lower, meaning labor cost is not a fixed number. It depends on pay level and number of employees at all times. What shapes external competitiveness? Here we can see three factors that would shape the external competitiveness. Competition in the labor market, which includes nature of demand and nature of supply. These two will fluctuate depending on high market levels or low market levels. Competition in the product and service market. This includes degree of competition and level of product demand. Later in the presentation, we will get in more detail about degree of competition and how it affects when stocks go up. Characteristics unique to each organization and its employees. This would be an organizational factor, including industries, strategies, size, individual managers. This is the base level of every factor during an external competitiveness. All three include the market value of demand and supply. Labor market factors. Two types of markets. Quoted price markets, which stores that label each item's price or ads that list a job opening's starting wage. Bourse, stores that allowing handling over the terms and conditions until agreement is reached. In these two markets, only one can be used at a time depending on the company. You can see in a more broad general market, bourse is used for an agreement to be reached, while quoted price markets are more in stores and in high demand companies. Graduating students usually find themselves in a quoted market. This is when someone with new education comes in, has a better chance at landing a job, others that don't have that chance with no education level. If total competition offers by the employer and the skills offered by the employee are mutually accepted, a deal is struck. In this model, we can see that supply rises while demand lowers. Supply goes up from 25,000 to 80,000, and demand goes down from 80,000 to 25,000, and the midline would be 40,000. This is where they both meet at one point. Labor supply. Labor supply is the total number of hours adjusted for intensity of efforts that workers want to work at a given pay wage. It is often represented by a labor supply curve, which shows wages rate conspired vertically and the amount of labor that an individual or group of individuals is willing to supply at the wage rate strategized horizontally. For example, if competitors quickly match a higher offer, the employer may face a higher pay level, but no increase in supply. Giant Foods raised its hourly pay $1 above minimum wage in Chicago area. Wendy's and Burger King quickly followed suit. The result was that the supermarket was paying more for employees it already had, but was still short-handed. Although some firms find lowering the job requirements and hiring less skilled workers as a better choice and then rising wages, this choice requires increased training costs. We can see with this model that the labor supply and the pay wage will differ. Modification to the demand side. In this model, we can see there are three main factors for higher pay wages. Compensating differential is when a high risk/reach job is offered to satisfy for its negative factor, which the pay will be higher. For example, a construction worker is considered a high-risk job because they're putting their life on the line to work. This is why they get paid more money to be able to do what they do. Another example for a high-reach job would be a professional athlete. Many people try to go for this job, yet only few succeed. Since this job is very limited number, the pay is very high and only the best get in. Efficiency wages is when you raise the wages for a certain job to lower turnover. Companies will hire the wages for a position so that way their employees won't leave. This has helped for turnover rate, but it's only successful if the company has a budget that can sufficiently acquire this kind of rate. Signaling can occur in a form of offering a low base pay with promises of bonuses, training, and a list of benefits you can acquire in a company. This means that the company will give you a lower pay but offer you things that you might want, like healthcare, park benefits, and training to move you up in the position. Modification to the supply side. Reservation wages, meaning that a person is seeking a certain amount of pay that no matter how great the job is or the benefits it comes with, if the pay is not in the reservation desire, they will more than likely not accept the offer. This means that usually a person will decline an offer not because of the pay, but because they want the benefits. Someone may be looking for a job not for a full-time or part-time position, but for great healthcare benefits. If this company does not offer that person the great benefits but offers great pay, that person will still deny the job because it does not offer their main factor, which is benefits. Human capital is an investment in oneself. People go to school to get a higher education so that they have a better chance at landing a job higher status. That company does not need to spend time or money to teach you what they want you to know because you took care of it from the start. As many of us are doing right now, we're going to school to get a higher education so that way we could land a better job in the future. With this, we are at an advantage point from other people who don't have a degree or have higher education. Human capital is someone self-made for improvement. Product market factors and ability to pay. While labor market sets a minimum pay level for employees, the product market sets the maximum pay level. If the employer pays above maximum level, a higher pay level through price increase or holds price fixed and allocates a greater share of total revenue to cover labor costs. Overtime pay, which is normally time and a half of pay. This means employers usually work a certain amount of hours a week and get a fixed rate pay. But if they maximize that rate of hours, their pay will be fluctuated at a higher rate due to the company. This can normally be seen by hourly paid employees. Degree of competition is when an employer is at a highly competitive market and a price must be at a set level to regulate the economy, while non-competitive employees can set a level of pay to what they want at an appropriate rate. All jobs are at a competition, but for example, an entrepreneur, they make money by doing however much work they do. The more work they put in, the more money they make. The harder they work, the more money they can make. There is no set price for an entrepreneur. It's depending on the work they put in. But for a pharmacist, they have a higher education to work a stable job. They get a set pay, set hours, and set work. This is not a highly competitive job.
Organization factors. There's about 4 key factors. Industry and technology. Technology used in an organization is influenced by the competition. This also helps determine the qualifications and experience needed for the job and pay. New technology within an industry influences pay levels. New and evolving technologies such as self-checkout, apps to pay with, have declined pay as well as in-person cashiers. Employer size. Larger organizations tend to pay more than smaller ones. Firms with more than 500 workers pay 12% more than the smaller firms. The organization's size and pay level go hand in hand. People's preferences. People tend to go for higher paying organizations. When people tend to go with higher pay, it also helps when they have health insurance, eye coverage, and bonuses and pensions, as well as like paid maternity leave. Organization strategies. Higher pay satisfaction means higher performance and quality in work. Pay satisfaction is a huge part in organization strategy. A lot of employees, if they're happy with their pay, then they become more happier at their job and have better outcomes in their work.
Relevant markets. The market determines wages. This evaluation is important because if evaluated incorrectly, you can cause an error in pay wages. For example, when you work for a company, either the hiring manager or the HR personnel will determine your pay wage. Each person must be getting paid correctly and fairly for the amount of work they are doing. Either they're being paid hourly or salary. Each hour counts for their work done for the company. If the HR personnel cannot correctly put pay wages together, this will cause fluctuation in demand and supply. 3 factors usually used to determine relevant markets: occupation, skill and knowledge, geography, willingness to relocate, commute, or virtual employee, competitors, other employees in the same product/service and other markets. As we can see, all companies have different styles of work. Your title, location, and who you are in competition with other companies will affect the price or pay wage that you are getting paid for the work done. Globalizing and relevant labor markets, offshoring and outsourcing. Wall Street may outsource India lawyers doing legal work in the US requesting significantly less than an American. In this case, we're talking about a market-wide international company where work is done in other countries. Competitive pay policy alternatives. What difference does pay level policy make? The competitiveness of pay will affect the organization's ability to achieve compensation objectives, which will affect performance. As we saw earlier today, we had two companies who serve the same product or service, and yet they are in competition to keep their employees happy so they won't leave each other. But this can also be seen as in the same company paying each department the same amount of money or each employee the same amount of money. Yet not everyone can get paid. Differences include time with the company, experience, and knowledge. Every person gets paid differently, and we don't want instability to occur in a workplace. Pay with competition, matching rates paid by competitors. This is where an HR personnel must try to make all pay wages at a fair minimum price or maximum price. Lead pay level policy. Attract, retain quality employees, and maximize employees' dissatisfaction with pay. In this case, we can see that sometimes pay is not enough for employees. They want benefits with the company or something that will attract them that won't just be about pay. Earlier in the presentation, we discussed about healthcare. Some employees don't care about the amount of money they make, but they care about them receiving good healthcare. This may be because healthcare is more important to them due to them visiting the hospital more often than others. Lag pay level policy. Paying below market rates. This can hidden potential employees. Different policies for different employee groups. Here we have three policy options. Occupational families, different forms of pay, adopt different policies for different units. Like we discussed, every employee has different care and meanings for what they work for. Some will want to work for money, some will want to work for their family, and some would want to work for the benefits that the company has upheld for them.
Consequences of pay level and pay mix decisions. Guidance from the research. Efficiency. There is no specific method in paying and hiring workers. There's things like recommended matching, such as for this job, this person should be able to do this or that, but those are recommendations and not a solid, efficient decision on how to hire. Fairness. Every organization needs a good way to pay everyone fairly. Employers have many choices, but have to use their resources to figure out who would be the best fit. Compliance. Every organization needs to pay at least a minimum wage and follow the law with pay and benefits. Wage laws must be met due to the living wage. There is an additional benefit when the employer adds healthcare or any other benefits. As in Exhibit 7.2, some of the consequences of pay levels. So, competitiveness of total compensation comes with containing operating expenses such as labor costs, increased pool of qualified applicants, increased quality and experience, reduced voluntary turnover, increased probability of union-free status, and reduced pay-related work stoppages. We got all of our information from Compensation 13th edition by Barry Gerhardt, all of Chapter 7.